Hello and welcome back to my channel. My name is Jackie, and for the past year, in fact more than a year now, I've been talking about an impending move to Switzerland, and that is finally happening in 1 week's time. So I thought I'd do a moving vlog and take you along for the ride. So if you've been watching my recent videos, you'll know this is my second packing video. And in fact, I don't even think you can see the suitcase with the camera angle at the moment. But that's okay because you've already seen me pack once. So today I thought I'd just give you an update on the immigration situation. So both my husband and I have been approved for a residence permit for Switzerland. Mine is for employment because I work for a Swiss company, and his is to go over as my spouse. And in order to get our residence permits, we need to go to a biometric centre in our city, which is Lausanne, and get our fingerprints done and our photos done. So I did that a few weeks ago, and his appointment is scheduled for when we arrive. And what happened at the end of the appointment when I was there was they said, "Oh, we're going to post it to you." I'm like, "Great, where are you going to send it? I don't live here yet." And they couldn't tell me, they had no idea. So I think there are 3 possible places my residence permit could show up. One is here, which I think is fairly unlikely. Another place is the office of the company I work for, and then the final place is my boss's former address, which he said I could use on the residence permit application form because you need a probable address in Switzerland in order to apply for the permit. So we've got everyone checking their mailboxes for a residence permit for Jackie. The challenge is, I just found out this week that if your name isn't on the mailbox, which obviously it isn't because I don't live there, apparently they don't leave it. Like, they leave a collection slip for you. So we just added my name to the mailbox, I think 2 days ago. So I'm hoping it just hasn't been delivered yet, not that it's been delivered and like the delivery failed. So residence permits will happen at some point. If they never arrive, I assume I can ask for another one because it's all been approved. But yeah, if I can't, that's going to be interesting. After residence permits, our next priority is finding somewhere to live, which has opened up a whole new can of worms that I wasn't expecting. So Switzerland will be the 5th country that I've lived in, including Australia, and every other country. So I went to the UK, then France, then Estonia. Every other place I've lived, I've had a week or 2 of temporary accommodation when I arrived, and I've been able to find a place to rent in that time. To be completely fair though, so London and Paris, they aren't really comparable because I was looking for a room and a house share, whereas now I'm a grown-up and married, so my husband and I are obviously looking for an apartment of our own. So the situation is more comparable to Estonia, but in Estonia I found a place within the first 2 weeks. I thought, okay, get an Airbnb for the first 2 weeks. I've got the first week that we're arriving there off, so that should give us time to be like full-time house hunters. And then I was looking into the documents we need to apply for a place to live. And one of the mandatory documents you need is they call it an extract from the debt collection registry, which is, I'm assuming, the Swiss equivalent of a credit report. So one of the property websites says, oh, you can order yours online here, it'll be delivered in a couple of days. So I put in the order and nothing came. So I then emailed them saying, look, did this order a couple of days ago, when will it arrive? And they got back to me saying, oh, the address you provided is in Estonia, we can only do this for Switzerland. I'm like, well, I'm moving to Switzerland from Estonia, I've never lived there before, so what do you suggest? And they're like, maybe you can get a credit report from where you live now. So I requested one in Estonia, which has been provided in Estonian, so it's not useful to anyone outside the country. But my husband is a former graphic designer, and he looked at it and said, okay, with this and like my colleagues translating, I can create an English version that'll still look legit. So I'm like, okay, problem solved. Then we were in one of the expat groups on Facebook, and my husband found someone who's basically like a consultant for people moving to Lausanne. And she said, they don't accept credit reports from other countries. So it's like, how do you move to Switzerland for the first time and find somewhere to live? So then I turned to my colleagues, because even though it is an international company and people are working from various countries because we're all remote now, there are people who work from the head office who have moved there from somewhere else. And basically everyone says, what you've got to do is go to Switzerland, find temporary accommodation for 3 months. Once you've got your temporary accommodation, that'll be enough history for them to do the debt report. And you'll also be able to get your 3 salary statements, which is one of the other requirements. Though I wasn't too worried about the salary statements because neither my husband or I are switching companies with the move. The only difference for me is that my pay slips will be provided in Swiss francs instead of euros, and hopefully they'll be a little bit higher as well because the cost of living is much higher over there than it is here. But aside from the pay slips, this debt registration is still a problem. So now I'm not sure if we're going to be able to find somewhere to live when we get there, which is obviously not ideal. So there's all this conversation on Slack happening from expats in Switzerland, and I was like, oh my God, we're not going to be able to find anywhere to live, and we're going to have to find like a sublet for a couple of months, and we'll need to move every couple of months. And it's just, it's been a somewhat stressful year, and this process has been somewhat stressful as well. It's like, oh, I just want it to go smoothly at this point. But then one of my colleagues contacted me directly saying when she arrived, she had an Airbnb booked for the first 3 weeks. She made finding an apartment her full-time job, and she was able to find one in that time. She also said that for the debt registration extract, she used the Airbnb's address, and she did that in the first week of arriving. So I've done a sneaky in that I applied for the extract on Friday using my boss's address, so the one that I had in the residence permit application. And you're supposed to submit your residence permit. I submitted my passport instead, but I said, look, I'm waiting on the residence permit to arrive. I can send a letter of invitation if wanted or if necessary. So hopefully that works. And I more want it to work because I don't want to get blacklisted for when I apply for it again. But yeah, we'll see what happens. So hopefully we get this document and can find a place fairly easily. If not, there are a lot of people like on Facebook who are, doing a semester abroad or in another city who have a place that's available for 6 months so there are a lot of these small sublets. So I think that might even be a better solution because it means we go into a place that's already furnished and we don't need to buy furniture. But we'll see. So I have these 2 rather big handbags, and I think I'm going to put my clothes into them to save space in the suitcase. Other than finding a place to live, the other priorities when we first get there are getting Drew's residence permit application finalised, as well as opening bank accounts, though I don't think it will be possible to apply for a bank account without having an address, so it'll be interesting to see how we go. It has now been a week and we're moving out of our apartment this afternoon to stay in a hotel tonight before our flight to Switzerland at 7 AM tomorrow. And I feel sad. And it's strange because everyone keeps asking if I'm excited about the move, and the truth is that I'm not. And I don't know if it's just because I'm exhausted because the past 3 months since the process transitioned from my employer's side to my side has been exhausting with all of the documents we've had to gather and the different applications we've had to do, and even applications to get documents in order to do applications. And then having it all done and finding out that the process for getting an apartment over there is going to be just as difficult. Like, that's been really tiring. And I was comparing it to having a business that's in debt the other day, where if you start a new business and you make a whole lot of like purchases at the beginning, so you invest a whole lot in a website and like coaching program and marketing and so on, that means you're not starting your business at 0 in terms of income and revenue. You're starting at a negative, maybe tens of thousands in the negative. Or for a bigger business, could be hundreds of thousands, millions in the negative. And the challenge with that is that in order for your business to break even, it needs to do so much more than if you were just starting to offer freelance services and had no outlay. So starting in the negative means your business needs to be so much more successful to not even be successful, to break even. And I feel a little bit like that with the move to Switzerland, in that it has taken so much work and so much energy and so much like cost as well, because doing all of this has been expensive. I mean, I had to fly to Switzerland for a day last month, and it's taken so much from us that I feel like Switzerland, it doesn't even just need to be a nice place to live at this point. Like, it needs to be, this is like the break-even point for this process, and at the moment we're way down here. The frame's not big enough to have where my hand is, but we're so far in the negative now that Switzerland needs to be spectacular just for us to break even on this energetic and emotional investment. And I don't know if it can. I don't know if any place can. And that makes me even sadder, because I remember last April when, before I even interviewed for this job, what actually started it was I had a recruiter contact me on LinkedIn about another role in the same city saying, how would you like to work in beautiful Switzerland? And I was like, hell yeah, that sounds awesome. So obviously that job didn't work out, but it led me to apply for this one because it was also based in Lausanne. And last April, I was so excited about the prospect of moving to Switzerland and being somewhere new. And now it's been over a year, like a year and a quarter, slightly more than that even. And all of that excitement's gone. And the thought of moving somewhere else now, like if we're leaving Estonia, the only place I really want to go is home. So it almost feels like going to Switzerland is not the beginning of a new adventure. It feels like it's a detour on our way home, which is not a good emotional space to be in. And I'm trying not to put too much stock into it because, like I said, I am so tired. I know my husband is as well. And that obviously affects your emotions, but it's strange to be like starting something new and almost feeling like it's a chore at this stage. And I don't know what to do about that. I don't know if there is anything we can do about it until we find somewhere to live. But that's where I am. And something else contributing to the sadness is that, like, for the past couple of months, I thought Drew and I could, do all of the things that we really love about Estonia and all of the things that make it special and see these places that we've loved and go on long walks and go out for dinner and, really say goodbye to this city. And we haven't. And admittedly, I have done a lot of long walks, but he didn't really seem to be that interested in doing all of this stuff. And it's not really something you can force on your own. So now it's the day before we leave and we haven't done any of that. And I feel sad because we're saying goodbye to the city, but haven't really had a chance to say goodbye. And yeah, it just makes me sad. But on the positive note, at least we're almost done. The only real concern about leaving at the moment is whether our luggage will be in the weight limit or whether we'll have to pay extra fees at the airport, but we'll see what happens. So yeah, I'm hoping we can find an apartment fairly easily now that I've got the document that I needed to get, which I might tell you the story behind that when I next film, but I'm not really in the right emotional space for sharing that at the moment. So at the moment I don't really have anything more to say than that. I just thought I'd check in before we move.
Och andas som vanligt. Justera bandet för att hålla masken på plats. Så först på din egen mask. Hjälp.
We are now at our Airbnb in Lausanne and trying to figure out the next steps of this move. So the things we need to get done in our first 2 weeks are submit my husband's biometric information, which we did yesterday morning. We need to register our arrival with the population control. We need to find SIM cards so we can get local numbers, find somewhere to live, and get a local bank account. And with the exception of the piece we've already done, so submitting my husband's information, all of this is proving a little bit more complex than planned, though I can't say I'm surprised about that after the process so far. So before we get into these next steps, I'll give you an update on what's happening with my residence permit as well as this debt collection register extract. So the debt collection thing, when I was doing my last pack, I think I told you that I applied using my boss's address because his address was on my residence permit application. So I sent that on Friday, and then on Monday I got a reply going, you are not known at this address. And I replied going, what does that mean? And they're like, well, you haven't announced your arrival here. You haven't registered with the local population control. I'm like, oh, okay, well, I technically haven't moved yet, and I'm just trying to organize things as I move. So is there anything I can do? And at the same time, I was talking to someone at work because we found this one paragraph on the page about getting your debt collection extract. And it said that foreign nationals with professional activity in Switzerland can use their employer's address. So I asked her to contact them to verify this. She said, yes, it's okay. And then in the email thread I had for the existing application, I said, look, I checked this with my employer. Apparently, because I'm already working for a Swiss company, I can use their address. Is that okay? And after, I think, 14 emails going back and forth, we finally got to the conclusion that yes, it was okay. No, I did not need to send and pay for a second application to do this, which was what I was told earlier in the thread. And I could just send them my work address and my current residential address and it would be fine. What's interesting is that none of this was clear like 2 or 3 emails before the end of the thread where they told me I needed to send a new application, and I went back saying, so I need to send a second application, and if I send a second one, how do we know I won't have the same problem because I still am not registered locally? And I was exasperated when I got a reply going, please view my colleague's previous response. And I'm like, your colleague's previous response does not answer this question. I need to, I'm very sorry. This is not clear to me. These are the 2 things I need answered. 1 was, do I need to send a second application? 2 was, if I update the existing application or send a second one, am I going to have the same problem because I still have not registered locally? And he got back to me saying, oh, okay, well, just send these addresses through and you'll be fine. So I was able to get my debt report using my Estonian address and getting it sent to my office. So I don't know how that's any different to the situation I was in before, where I still didn't live in Switzerland at the time, but at least I have the document now, so that should make finding an apartment easier. The other big question mark I had was about my residence permit, because when I went to Lausanne on the 9th of July to submit my fingerprints and photo, they said, oh, this is going to get posted to you now. And I was like, where? I don't live in Switzerland yet. So then at work I asked if they could reach out. They reached out to them and they said, oh, it's not actually going to get sent to you until you register with the local population control. So it was never going to get sent until we arrived here anyway. So my residence permit in theory should have been issued. It's somewhere, and when we register with the local authorities, then it will get sent to our current address. So that's what's happening with the things that were already in progress. Now, what's coming up? The first thing, which we need to do within 14 days of our arrival, is registering with the local population control. Unfortunately, I just discovered when we arrived that we need an appointment in order to do this. We can't just show up at the office. And to book an appointment, you need to send an email where you submit all of the documents that you'd bring along on the day. So I sent that on Monday night. It's now Wednesday and still haven't heard back, which is a little worrying because we've only got like another 11 days when we need to do it. So once we get SIM cards, I might call them if I can and just see what's happening. Beyond the 14-day deadline though, the other reason why I want to get that done quickly is because we're going to register with our current address, so the Airbnb, where we're only going to be until the 15th, and they will send our residence permits here. So if we don't manage to go there and register our address until the 12th, our residence permits won't arrive here until after we've left. So then I've got to find a way to chase down the permits. I mean, the host here is pretty good, so I can probably connect with him, but still, like, it would be nice just to get this sorted. So thing 1, registering with local authorities. I'm waiting for them to get back to me about an appointment. Thing 2 is SIM cards. So Drew is the tech person in this relationship, so he was looking up different mobile plans and said, oh, LD looks like it has one that would be good for us, and there's an LD about 200 meters from where we're staying. So we went there and said, oh, do you have SIM cards for LD Mobile? And they're like, first you need to register online and then you can come back here to get the SIM card. So we're like, okay. So we went back to our apartment, registered for the SIM card, and then it said, oh, it'll be sent to you in 2 to 3 days. So we can't go to LD to pick it up now. The other thing is that it had one of those automatically populated address things, and it did not recognize the address where our Airbnb is, and it would not let me manually enter it. So I entered the office's address, but there wasn't a space for company, so it's just going to be addressed to me at our company address. So I've sent their customer support an email going, can I update the address please? And haven't heard back. So we might also just give up on that and buy a different SIM card today if we find another provider. The other thing is a bank account, which I need to have organised by the 15th because that's when I will first get paid in Switzerland. I'm hoping we will have a permanent address by the time I open that, so that's probably going to be later next week. And then the big thing is finding an apartment. Now we have a list of different apartments we're interested in. Most of them you need to contact them to arrange a time to view it. And we can't contact them via the website where they're listed because we can't register via the website where we're listed until we have Swiss phone numbers. There are a couple of nationalities you can have. There's like Switzerland, France, Germany, and probably Italy as well. but there are like 5 different area codes, and Estonia is not one of them, so we can't use our existing phone numbers. So that's another reason why we need to get SIM cards. So Drew is currently in the shower, then we'll go out and get SIM cards, then I'll start making phone calls to all of these places, and hopefully we'll find someone who's willing to give a couple of Australians a chance, even though we don't have our residence permits yet. So we'll see. It has been a week and I thought I'd give you a quick moving update. So the good news is that basically everything's sorted, and yes, there was a lot of back and forth and documentation required, but it did end up being much quicker than expected. So my husband and I have registered our arrival, which means our residence permit should be coming hopefully soon, probably within the next week, though small complication is that I can't get my Swiss contract with work until I get my residence permit or some proof that we've arrived. So I've sent work like the receipt of when we registered our address, as well as our request to book an appointment, as well as the appointment confirmation. So hopefully that's enough, because Switzerland is very expensive and I would like to start earning my Swiss salary since I now have Swiss expenses. The biggest news though is that we found an apartment. So I don't know if I mentioned this earlier, but when I was asking on Slack for advice about finding an apartment and getting this debt collection register document, everyone said, oh, you're not going to find somewhere in 2 weeks, it'll take 3 months. So we found this apartment last week. We created like a map with all the places we wanted to visit. We visited it on Friday at lunchtime, and then Tuesday morning we were offered the apartment. So I'm just waiting for the contracts to arrive, but we're not going to be homeless. So we move in there on the 1st of September. Now we need to find 12 days of accommodation between when our Airbnb stay ends and when that begins, because the Airbnb is unfortunately booked from the 20th of August. But all in all, feeling good. And here's the map I mentioned. All of the sort of teal coloured pins on the map, they're the different apartments we went to see. So I think there are maybe 22 pins on the map right now. And we actually had a few more beyond this that we also inquired about, but were already taken. So I've been a very bad vlogger for this move, but it's because it's been very exhausting, and I'm feeling particularly exhausted at the moment because we just moved from one Airbnb to our second one before we move into our final apartment on the 1st of September. And we didn't realise that the apartment was on the 5th floor with no elevator. And normally that's not a problem. But today we had to carry all of our luggage. So here's what we carried up 5 flights of stairs. So we've got this little duffel here, and yes, those are my pants on the floor because they came off as soon as we got up here. There's my big backpack. That was about 18 kilos at the airport, I think. We have suitcase 1, which was about 23, 24 kilos. Small backpack. We have this box, which is about 20 kilos. And then through here, we have this suitcase, which I have no idea how much it weighs. At the airport, it was around 23, 24, but I didn't pack it as carefully, so it's probably heavier. Drew just said it was lots. So let's say 27 kilos for that one. Another little duffel here, and suitcase number 3, which is also around that 23, 24 kilo range. So that obviously took several trips. Now we are very tired, but the new Airbnb is like 750 meters from the lake, which you can see out our window. And we do have a balcony, but as I mentioned, I'm not wearing pants, so I'm not going to step outside and give you the full panoramic view right at this moment. So I've been taking a lot of long walks lately because walking has always been like a form of meditation for me. It's been a way I recharge. And walking around Lausanne, I'm just in awe of how beautiful it is, especially now that we're like in the south of the station area. It's so green, there are trees everywhere, and we're so close to the lake, so you just get this expansive view of the lake and the mountain. And I walk down these old European streets and through parks and along the lake, and I think, this is so beautiful. How did I get so lucky to be living here? and then I need to get something done. And every time the process is so complex and convoluted that I think, this is the worst country in the world, why are we living here? So we are now in our final apartment, which is very exciting. I actually intended to vlog on our moving day, and then I completely forgot because I'm not a very good vlogger. I think I just don't have that instinct to record everything. So we did the move on Wednesday, the 1st of September. I might put like a map on the screen with our various stops, but it was a full day thing. Like we had to pick up a van, check out at the Airbnb, drive to IKEA to pick up an order, drive to a friend's place to pick up some things she was giving us, which was very generous of her. Go to another shop to see if they had anything, go pick up a TV cabinet that I got on IKEA, not on IKEA, that I got on Facebook Marketplace, get a coffee table, and so on. The really good thing here though is that there is a huge Facebook Marketplace for like secondhand items, so I think once we've got all of the major furniture, we'll probably come out of it for less than 2,000 francs, which is pretty good when you're furnishing an empty place. At the moment though, we are not there yet, so I'm in the bedroom and I literally have like a mattress on the floor. It's not very inspiring. Let's go back to the light. The other thing that's a little annoying is I don't have any wardrobe. There's no built-in storage here. Oh, there's a little bit, but not in this room. So we have this mess. This happened because everything was obviously packed, and then I needed to find some things and I couldn't find the things, so I started pulling the luggage apart. But I found a wardrobe on Facebook Marketplace, so we're going to be getting that later today. So then hopefully I can unpack, because I realized there are distinct steps in moving. There's like the literal moving from one place to another, which we did, but then there's the unpacking, which we haven't done yet. And there's also the buying new stuff, cleaning, that sort of thing, which we also haven't done, but we're getting there. So yeah, our house is, we're here. We are not going to be homeless, which is good, but it's very empty. Like you can hear the echo. So here's our living room, which is literally our coffee table and TV cabinet. We have no couch yet. We have no TV either, but that's coming. Similarly with the kitchen, we've just got like the cabinets obviously it came with, and then some boxes and things because we're waiting for our stuff to arrive. So my original plan with this vlog was to get to our final apartment and I'd sign off then. But I feel like we're not settled yet because you've seen where we're living. There's no furniture. Like the most complete room is the bathroom. But other than the bathroom, my husband set up an office, which now has a desk and a chair that arrived yesterday. It has 2 pieces of furniture and it feels like the most complete room. So we're not really settled yet. So I'm not sure if like maybe I should wrap things up now or if I should wait until we have everything, which might be another 2 weeks. But we'll see. In any case, I'm exhausted. This has been such a process. So here's a map so you can get a sense for what our moving day was like and feel our pain. So if I zoom in, this is basically Lausanne. Our Airbnb was around here. So the first thing we needed to do was get public transport up here where we were renting a truck for the day to move everything. So we got I think 2 buses to get up here, and then we had to drive back to the Airbnb to clear out our suitcases. Then after returning to the Airbnb, we then drove to IKEA, which is all the way down here. I think it's like 44 kilometers from Lausanne, which if you're Australian or American, that doesn't sound like much, but in Europe, that's a lot. So we went to IKEA, picked up some things we'd ordered, then we came up here to pick up some stuff from a friend of a friend. So we were really lucky that one of my colleagues' friends was moving and had a whole lot of stuff to give away, so that really helped us out, especially with kitchen stuff. So picked up all of the stuff here, then went back to Lausanne to drop everything off at our new apartment, which is here where the J is. After dropping off all of our stuff, we then were picking up a TV cabinet that we'd found on Facebook Marketplace, so drove up here to pick that up, went back to drop it off at our apartment. Then, after dropping it off at our apartment, we needed to return the truck that we'd rented, so drove back up here to drop off the truck, and then had to get 2 buses back home. So we go back home, we have maybe half an hour to chill out, and then we're picking up a coffee table that we also found on Facebook Marketplace. So we rented a second car, which I think we picked up from somewhere around here, then drove up here to pick up the TV cabinet, which was actually free, so we were quite lucky. Then pick up our TV cabinet, go home, drop off the car, and then we're done. So that was a good 12-hour day. So it is now the 26th of September, I think, and we are finally moved in, or at least as moved in as I think we're going to be in the short term. So we've got like all of the major pieces of furniture, so this bedroom's all filled out. We've got our couch, finally. We got it on Monday, and before then, so I've got this like IKEA armchair, and Drew has his office chair, so like to watch Netflix we were dragging both of these out to the living room and sort of sitting next to each other on our two separate chairs. It was very depressing. So when we got the couch on Monday, that was a big achievement and was just so comfortable. And I also got a chair for my desk yesterday, which is the last major piece of furniture. We still need dining room chairs, but we don't really eat at the table, so we can go for a few months without them. So given that we've got most of our stuff now, I think it's a good time to end this vlog. One of the things I don't have is a good video backdrop. As you can see, it is a little challenging finding a place to film that's not like with the windows behind you that still looks nice, and all of our walls are white, so there's nothing really dynamic, but this is a really small problem in the grand scheme of things. So before filming this, I actually went through and edited the rest of the footage I have, and I saw that clip from the very beginning when I was in Estonia, not really looking forward to this move and just exhausted and thinking, you know, if I go anywhere, I just want to go home. And I'm really happy to say that I feel quite different now that we're here. Both Drew and I really love Lausanne. We're in the most beautiful location. We've got a park across the road where there was karaoke the other night on a Friday night. People were just randomly doing karaoke in the park. But there are always like events happening because it's the tail end of summer. There's like yoga in the park on a Saturday morning, and there's a market on a Friday afternoon, and then the streets around here are just so beautiful and leafy and green. And like I mentioned in an earlier clip, I walk through the streets and go, how did I get so lucky to be able to live here? Which is not what I was expecting given the way I felt before we came over. Admittedly, there are some things that are extremely frustrating. The bureaucracy here is a nightmare. We're trying to organise health insurance at the moment because it's mandatory. And I think we signed up for it, but all we got was an email confirming that we'd submitted our details, but no information on the policy and no premium that needs to be paid. So I replied going, can you let me know if there's anything else I need to do? Got an automated response saying they'll get back to me within 8 working days. I'm like, okay, 8 working days passed, no response. And then I sent another email going, look, this is my first time getting insurance in Switzerland. I don't know how it works. Please help me. And haven't heard back to that one yet, but I think I'll give them a call tomorrow if I don't hear back. And admittedly, these are fairly small inconveniences in the big scheme of things, but they're really common. Basically, every time we've tried to get something done here, it's been this process that's involved multiple emails and phone calls and sometimes appointments in person, and it's extremely exhausting. So on one hand, I'm walking around, I'm going to the cafe around the corner that has 19 different types of hot chocolate, and I'm like, how did this happen? I'm the luckiest person in the world. And then I have to deal with some process and I'm like, this is the worst country ever. Why am I living here? So I'm assuming that frustration is going to ebb now that we've basically done everything except the health insurance, but it has been a bit of a journey. One of the more relevant things to this channel is my writing or lack thereof since we've come over, because other than finishing my plotting for The Glass Witch, I haven't done anything, and I was, I don't know, not really beating myself up over it, but sort of going, that's really interesting that I can't seem to make myself write. And then I happened to be looking at my Goodreads and I realized I haven't even read anything since I've been here. Like I've read, so if you see my quarterly reading wrap-ups, you'll know I sort of read like 20 books a quarter. This quarter I've read 4. And the last one I finished on the 2nd of August, which was the day we came here. So it was in the flight over here. So I think that just goes to show like how all-consuming this process is. even with having time off work. So I took a week off work when we first got here. We had 2 days off for moving, so one for moving between Airbnbs and one for moving here. And even with that, like just not having the capacity to do anything is, I can't think of a word, it's just strange. Because most of the time when, you're not doing what you said you would, you're not writing every day or working out or practicing your instrument or doing whatever it is that will bring you closer to your goals, it's usually like, oh, you're lazy, you're not disciplined enough. Like that's the sort of attitude. Whereas like with this, I just haven't had the capacity. So I'm not sure what that means for my future as a writer, especially since like I've struggled to write consistently ever since I got this job. And I'm not sure how much I've covered this on this channel, but before I started this channel, I had a business and I ended up selling it because I wanted to focus on my writing. And just in the last week, I went, I think I replaced my business with this new job, which is not what was meant to happen. So obviously, I'm committed to this job for at least the next year because we have a 1-year lease in this apartment. But it is interesting to think about. And I wonder if like it's a form of self-sabotage where basically I put myself in a position where I was overcommitted to other stuff. Or I wonder if maybe like now that we're settled in and life is getting back to normal, I will find more capacity. So we'll see. Ultimately though, I just wanted to check in because it's been like 8 weeks since I started filming this vlog, so it needs to end at some point. But all in all, we're really happy to be here, very grateful that it happened, despite the hiccups when it comes to writing and bureaucracy. So I guess that's it from me for the time being. So I'd be curious to hear from you, like how do you keep up your writing or whatever your thing is when you have so much going on in your life? Is it something where you do continue to be really strict, and if you've got, for example, a daily writing practice, you do continue that regardless and it doesn't matter what's happening in your life? Or are there times when you do take a break because you don't have the capacity? I'd be really curious to see how you tackle these sorts of situations and if there's something else I could be doing or something I could learn from you. Other than that, I hope you're having a great day and I will see you next time. Bye.